What's going on, everybody? I am here to do a review for Halloween Ends, the alleged last Halloween film in this saga. Probably, hopefully, ever. We got to use this in air quotes because, they'll say this is the last of anything. And then a couple years down the line, they say, oh, you know what? Let's go ahead and do another Halloween film. This is actually the first movie I've seen in a theater since Nope. Yes, it's crazy. I have not been inside of a movie theater since July. Mainly because anything else that I could have watched and reviewed on my channel, I was able to watch on streaming, whether it be Netflix or some other streaming platform. I think that's kind of how it was for the last couple of things that I did review on my channel. So Halloween Ends. This is, like I said, the alleged last Halloween film in this lineup. As of course, they did Halloween in 2018. Then they did Halloween Kills last year. And now we have Halloween Ends. And I believe they probably started filming Halloween Ends like soon after they were done with Halloween Kills. So basically the story in this one is this is 4 years later. This is 4 years after the events that happened in Halloween Kills. The town of Haddonfield, Illinois is feeling like they're getting some relief. They're kind of getting back to some sense of normalcy because Michael Myers, after he did what he did in Halloween Kills, he just kind of disappeared. No one knows what happened to him. It's just like he vanished. But we pretty much know that he wasn't dead. They just didn't know where he was at. He just kind of lay low. And if you saw Halloween Kills, even though he was able to get back up like he usually always does, because he has like so much determination, like that's his mutant ability, is determination. And he got up, he killed all those people after they just beat him and stabbed him and shot him and everything like that, and he was still able to move and keep going. But even though that happened, they didn't make him like this supernatural being like they kind of did in the older films. They just made him like a regular man that just had a lot of adrenaline. But he's now just off, disappeared somewhere, and he's most likely weakened. So it's fast forward, like I said, it's 4 years later. You meet back up with Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, probably one of the best quote unquote final girls ever, and her granddaughter Allison, because of course she lives with her now because her mother was killed in the previous film, so she had to have somewhere to stay. So they're just living life. Laurie's writing a book, basically almost like a memoir book about her life. Allison, she's working at a hospital, I think like as a nurse or maybe an RN or something to that effect. Just moving on, with life for now, until an individual comes into their life and just kind of wrecks everything for them in a way that it's kind of a slow burn, and then it really boils over. And the person who comes into their life is not exactly who you think it is. It's not even Michael Myers. It's an individual, it's a new character that they introduced in this movie named Corey. And I have to admit, the actor who played him, I think I've seen him in some other things before, but I can't put my finger on what I've seen him in. But he kind of looks like a young Willem Dafoe. And he kind of almost acted like him a little bit in this movie. Willem Dafoe is a phenomenal actor. He plays crazy very good. And he has the way he does his facial expressions. It's almost like I wanted to ask where they related because they look so much alike. But he played this character named Corey. And the movie pretty much kicks off with his character because it goes back to 2019. It's kind of like a flashback type of thing of something that happened that we didn't see in the previous film, where he's basically babysitting this kid because his parents, they're really rich. They're going to this Halloween party down the street, and then something happens. I was actually watching an interview that Jamie Lee Curtis did, and she was saying like the opening act of this movie is going to blow everyone away. And I have to admit, it most definitely did, because what happened in that opening sequence, like within the first 10 to 15 minutes of this movie, blew everyone away. Everyone that I was in the audience with pretty much jumped like at the same time with what happened in that opening sequence with this new character that we got introduced to in this film. I'm gonna just leave it right there because I don't want to spoil anybody for anyone who wants to go and see this particular movie. So like I said, the town is kind of trying to move on. And what I found to also be interesting is that a lot of the people in the town are finding a way to blame Laurie for the reason why some of the stuff happened in the previous film occurred. Like, for instance, there was one woman in the movie who I'm surprised she survived, considering the way that she was looking in the previous film. I thought she died. But her sister confronts Laurie and basically is telling her, it's your fault. You should have just left Michael Myers alone. If you had did this, then this wouldn't have happened. So now it's like she has this level of guilt, but it's like, she wasn't trying to like, bring him back or anything like that. It's like, it's just the person, it's almost like a pest that just won't go away. And it's like it plays on your mental. I've always said on my channel that mental enslavement is worse than physical. Like once someone can get inside of your head, they're in there for a very long time until you can find a way to actually get rid of this being or whatever trauma is leading you down this path of turmoil. And that's kind of what the Laurie Strode character has to go through in this movie, because she thinks that, everything is fine, everything is nice and dandy, but then she gets these little subtle reminders and sometimes overt reminders that everything is not as good as she wants it to be. And there's only one way that she can get this thing out of her system. And she knows what she has to do, and in a way, like they say, understand the assignment. So that's pretty much like the summary overview of that of the movie. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get into what I liked and what I didn't like. I'm trying to decide which one to go with first. I think I'll start with what I liked. What I liked, the opening sequence. The opening sequence was so good. Like I said, it caught everybody in the audience off guard. No one saw that coming at all. It's just crazy how all of that just went down the way that it did. And it's almost like it was something that one of the characters in the scene said that was almost foreshadowing for what ended up happening to them in that same scene. I'm gonna just leave it right there and let you just hang your hat on, with that one. The next thing that I did like about this movie was the story. The story was pretty much decently paced. Well, I take that back. It's a pro and a con. I'm gonna get to when I get to the cons, I'll tell you about that too. The story was okay. It was pretty decent. It wasn't the best, story to me, but I think that the way that they were trying to deal with this new character and put him out there, I don't know, why I put that in there. That's more of a con. So let me scratch that part about the story. That's actually probably going to go into the con. The next pro I would say is the kills. Of course, when you have a Halloween movie and Michael Myers and all of that, you have to acknowledge the kills. The kills were pretty, gruesome in this one. It wasn't as many kills as it was in Halloween Kills, because Halloween Kills pretty much, it was just like a bloodbath. That's all it really was going for. This movie is just wrapping up a story. That's pretty much what it is. It's wrapping up loose ends, a story to try to put it to rest. But of course, the kills were there and they were pretty damn gruesome. I would say one of the more gruesome kills of this movie, it involved someone's tongue being removed. I'm going to leave it right there. It's a little minor spoiler, but I don't tell you like what leads to that. But that part right there almost made me like curl up in my seat a little bit, because it was so gruesome. Like they actually went there with that particular kill. Another pro is that this movie actually did have a couple of jump scares in there. Like when it comes to a horror movie, I almost expect the jump scares to be there, but I don't want them to be forced jump scares and whatnot. But some of the jump scares were there, and even some of the jump scares that they did have weren't even from Michael Myers. Like you would think that it would be. It came from other things that made you jump a little bit, because it's almost like he's like that omnipresent being. You never know when he's going to show up or when he's going to pop up or anything like that. But just know that when he does pop up, then, it's either fight or flight. And for most, it's flight, because not a lot of people are going to head up with Michael Myers, which leads me to my last favorite part, or my last pro to this movie. It's probably some others, but these are the ones that stuck out to me. And that was the final, I guess you can say, showdown between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. This has been something that has been brewing and boiling over like a powder keg to get to this part right here, which was the fight between the victim and her enemy. And the way that they did that, I love that it happened all in one location. It was in a small kind of location because the fight happened in the kitchen. If y'all saw the trailers for it and you see her like getting tossed around and everything like that, that's the final fight that's happening in the movie. It's not so much really a spoiler, because you can pretty much figure out for yourself that's exactly what's going on. But that last fight that they had with each other was pretty damn brutal, and it was much well deserved. I think the fans of the Halloween franchise are going to enjoy that final fight. Like, it was definitely one that actually made me like lean forward in my seat a little bit and kind of clench my fist. You know how like sometimes when you see a fight scene and you be all into it, that's kind of how I was when I was looking at the fight scene for them two towards the end of the movie. Now that I have gotten to all the pros, let's get to the con. The con that I started off as a pro, which was the story. The story for me kind of dragged a little bit. A little minor spoiler, Michael Myers does not show up at all until like a good damn near almost an hour into the movie. Like, I didn't check my watch or anything like that to see exactly what time, but it felt like he didn't show up until a good hour or damn near almost an hour into the movie in order to make room for this new character, Corey, which I don't mind. You know, they bring in, you know, a new character and whatnot. But my thing is, if this is the alleged last film, we don't have time to be introducing a new character if this is truly your final film, because there's no time to really put a story out for this person if you want to flesh a story out there, and you don't want to rush a story either. But yeah, that the story kind of dragged a little bit. It had its ups, but I think it had much more downs than ups. But once it did get up, it kind of stayed there. And it really only happened when it came to the Laurie and Michael Myers interactions. And probably like that last final act of the film is probably one of the best parts of the film. I'm just going to be completely and utterly honest with you. Another thing that was a con for me is while the kills was a pro that they were brutal, some of the kills that they could have shown on screen, they didn't. And I'm sitting here saying to myself, this is an R-rated film. It's a brutal film. Why aren't they showing some of the kills on, you know, screen? Like, you know, some of them they did the kills off screen. And the thing is, they weren't even some of the more brutal kills. So I'm like, y'all could have just slipped those right on in there. It was even one where he actually, someone died with a blowtorch being put in their mouth. Like, it's crazy, like how that was shown, but a girl getting hit with a monkey wrench, they didn't show it. I know I gave y'all a little bit more spoilers, but it is what it is, because I know some of y'all are going to see it and some of you won't. But yeah, they could have shown, in my opinion, if this is the last film, y'all could have shown all the kills. But I guess they say, you know what? We gave y'all everything we could in Halloween Kills. We're going to tone it down a little bit with Halloween Ends. But my thing is, if you're going to go out, please go out with a bang. Because if y'all not coming back, what are you going to give the fans to really, you know, hang their hat on? If you understand what it is that I'm saying. Another con that I had, and this is probably one of the bigger cons, is that there wasn't enough Michael Myers. I think I had said that probably, I don't know if I said it in the first part with the pros, and I was tying it in to make it a pro, but it wasn't enough Michael Myers to me in this movie. I don't think he had that much screen time. Honestly, I don't think he had that much screen time. I think in the last fight between him and Laurie was probably the most screen time that he had. Like, there was other parts in the movie where you would see him here and there and whatnot, but he did not have that much screen time in this movie, because again, they kept trying to flesh out this new Corey character that if this is the last film, we won't really know much more about him. It's like they kind of trying to push him out there, which also gets me to my bigger con. And it's probably the biggest con for me when it comes to this movie. Is when did Michael Myers become so friendly with people? Because he ended up becoming friends with the Corey character. Like, it's like they connected and they made a bond or something like that. Something happens in the tunnel or the sewer or whatever that is in this movie between the Corey and Michael Myers that kind of reminded me of something that happened in the older films that I could have sworn we just kind of discarded those and was just focusing on the original film from 1978, where Michael Myers was just, like, as far as we know, a regular person. He wasn't a part of the Thorn. You know, for those of you who know the Halloween films, y'all know what I'm talking about, the Thorn curse. But it's almost like they tried to sprinkle that in there a little bit with his connection with the Corey character, and then they didn't really explain how Michael and Corey were connected and how they were able to have this kind of I don't know, the spiritual connection. It didn't explain it to me. Like that kind of just like left me in the loop. And I could tell by the people in the audience when I was looking around, like they was looking just as confused as I was, because I didn't understand that connection that Corey and Michael had. I didn't know that that was a thing, because it's like they didn't allude to it in the 2018 film that was going to happen. They didn't do it in Halloween Kills, but it's happening here. Like I just didn't get it. Maybe there's a write-up somewhere that can better explain to me why they decided to do that. But really, honestly, I don't think they had to do that. Like I felt like that was something that they could have just left alone, because I didn't understand it. Maybe someone who saw the movie can let me know down in the comment section what that was supposed to mean, because I don't understand it. But I think that for me was the bigger con of the entire film for me. And that's pretty much all I have right there. The directing, was decent. I can tell that they might have had a bigger budget this time. Maybe the budget in Halloween Kills a little bit more, because they had to deal with a lot of kills in that one. But you can actually, the way that this movie, rolled, did its thing, it almost feels like, could it possibly be the final film? Could this really actually be the end of the Halloween series, or at least the Halloween series between Michael Myers and Laurie Strode? And with that, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to end the review. Based on how this movie ended, I can probably say, in my opinion, 100% that, you know what, I'm not even going to say that. I'm going to ask y'all. I'm going to ask my audience. I'm going to ask the chat. Just on a guesstimate, if you haven't seen the movie, or maybe you don't plan on seeing it, let me know down in either the chat or in the comment section if you're catching the playback. Do you think that this is going to be the last Halloween film? Or do you think that there's going to be something else that comes along? I know the answer to that, but I don't want to spoil that. That's the one thing I do not want to spoil for you. I know what the answer is, but I'm leaving it up to you. Just almost kind of like making an activity out of it. Just let me know what you think. Do you think that this is going to be the last Halloween film? Or do you think that there's going to be more coming down the line? And that's pretty much it. That's all I have for Halloween Ends. That was my review. I'll talk to you all later.